Wake, for the sun behind yon eastern height has shazed the session of the stars from night, and to the field of heaven ascending, strikes the Sultan's turret with a shaft of light. Before the phantom of false morning died, method a voice within the tavern cried, when all the temple is prepared within, why lags the drowsy worshipper outside? And, as the cock crew, those who stood before the tavern shouted, open then the door. You know how little while we have to stay, and, once departed, may return no more. Now the new year reviving old desires, the thoughtful soul to solitude retires, where the white hand of Moses on the bough puts out, and Jesus from the ground suspires. Iram indeed is gone with all his rose, and Jamshid's seven-ringed cup where no one knows, but still a ruby gushes from the vine, and many a garden by the water blows. And David's lips are locked, but in divine, high-piping Pahlavi, with wine, 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 red wine, the nightingale cries to the rose, that sallow cheek of hers to incarnadine, come, fill the cup, and in the fire of spring, your winter garment of repentance fling. The bird of time has but a little way to flutter, and the bird is on the wing, whether at Nashapur or Babylon, whether the cup with sweet or bitter run. The wine of life keeps oozing drop by drop, the leaves of life keep falling one by one. Morning a thousand roses brings, you say. Yes, but where leaves the rose of yesterday? And this first summer month, that brings the rose, shall take Jamshid and Kakobit away. Well, let it take them. What are we to do? With Kakobit the great, or Kakazur? Let Rustum cry to battle, as he likes. Or had him tie to supper, he'd, not you, with me along the strip of herbage drown, that just divides the desert from the sown, where name of slave and sultan is forgot, and peace to Mahmud on his golden throne here with a little bread beneath the bough, a flask of wine, a book of verse, and thou beside me singing in the wilderness. Oh, wilderness were paradise, and oh, some for the glories of this world, and some sigh for the prophet's paradise to come. Ah, take the cash, and let the promise go, nor heed the music of a distant drum were it not folly, spider-like to spin the thread of present life away to win. What, for ourselves, who know not if we shall breathe out the very breath we now breathe, and look to the blowing rose about us low. Laughing she says, into the world I blow at once the silken tassel of my purse, tear, and its treasure on the garden throw. For those who husbanded the golden grain, and those who fling it to the winds like rain, alike to no such aureate earth are turned, as, buried once, men one dug up again. The worldly hope men set their hearts upon turns ashes, or it prospers, and anon, like snow upon the desert's dusty face, lighting a little hour or two, was gone. Think, in this battered caravanserai, his portals are alternate night and day, how sultan after sultan with his pomp abode his destined hour, and went his way. They say the lion and the lizard keep the course where Jamshid gloried and drank deep, and Bahram, that great hunter, the wild ass, stamps over his head, but cannot break his sleep, the palace that to heaven his pillars threw, and kings the forehead on his threshold drew. I saw the solitary ring dove there, and coo, coo, coo she cried, and coo, coo, coo. Ah, my beloved, fill the cup that clears today of past regret and future fears. Tomorrow, why, tomorrow I may be myself with yesterday's 7,000 years, for some we loved, the loveliest and the best, that from his vintage rolling time has pressed, have drunk their cup a round or two before, and one by one, crept silently to rest. And we, that now make merry in the room, they left, and summer dresses in new bloom. Ourselves must we beneath the couch of earth ascend ourselves to make a couch for whom I sometimes think that never blows so red. The rose is where some buried Caesar bled, that every hyacinth the garden wears, dropped in her lap from some once lovely head, and this delightful herb whose living green fledges the river's lip on which we lean. Ah, lean upon it lightly, for who knows from what once lovely lip it springs unseen. Ah, make the most of what we yet may spend, before we too into the dust descend. Dust into dust, and under dust to lie. Sans wine, sans song, sans singer, and sans end alike for those who for today prepare, and those that after some tomorrow stare. A muezzin from the tower of darkness cries, fools, your reward is neither here nor there. Another voice, when I am sleeping, cries, the flower should open with the morning skies, and a retreating whisper, as I wake, the flower that once has blown forever dies. Why, all the saints and sages who discussed of the two worlds so learnedly are thrust, like foolish prophets forth, their words to scorn, are scattered, and their mouths are stopped with dust. Myself when young did eagerly frequent doctor and saint, and heard great argument about it and about, but evermore came out by the same door, as in I went. With them the seed of wisdom did I sow, and with my own hand wrought to make it grow. And this was all the harvest that I reaped. I came like water, and like wind I go. Into this universe, and why not knowing, nor whence, like water willy-nilly flowing, and out of it, as wind along the waste, I know not whither, willy-nilly blowing. What, without asking, hither hurried whence, and, without asking, whither hurried hence. Ah, contrite heaven endowed us with the vine, to drug the memory of that insolence up from earth's center through the seventh gate. I rose, and on the throne of Saturn sate, and many knots unraveled by the road, but not the master knot of human fate. There was the door to which I found no key, there was the veil through which I could not see. Some little talk a while of me and thee, there was and then no more of thee and me. Earth could not answer, nor the seas that mourn, in flowing purple of their lord forlorn, nor heaven, with those eternal signs revealed, and hidden by the sleeve of night and morn. Then of the thee and me who works behind the veil of universe I cried to find a lamp to guide me through the darkness, and something then said an understanding blind. Then to the lip of this poor earthen urn I leaned, the secret well of life to learn, and lip to lip it murmured, well you live. Drink, for, once dead, you never shall return. I think the vessel, that with fugitive articulation answered, once did live. And drink, and that impassive lip I kissed. How many kisses might it take and give? For I remember stopping by the way to watch a potter thumping his wet clay, and with its all obliterated tongue it murmured, gently, brother, gently, pray, for has not such a story from of old down man's successive generations rolled, of such a clot of saturated earth, cast by the Maker into human mold, and not a drop, that from our cups we throw on the parked herbage, but may steal below, to quench the fire of anguish in some eye, there hidden, far beneath, and long ago, as then the tulip for her wonted sup of heavenly vintage lifts her chalice up. Do you, twin offspring of the soil, till heaven, to earth invert you like an empty cup? Do you, within your little hour of grace, the waving cypress in your arms endless, before the mother back into her arms, fold, and dissolve you in a last embrace? And if the cup you drink, the lip you press, and in what all begins and ends in, yes, imagine then you are what heretofore you were, hereafter you shall not be less. So when at last the angel of the drink of darkness finds you by the river brink, and, proffering his cup, invites your soul forth to your lips to quaff it, do not shrink, and fear not lest existence closing your account should lose, or know the type no more. The eternal sake from that bowl has poured millions of bubbles like us, and will pour, when you and I behind the veil are past. Oh, but the long, long while the world shall last, which of our coming and departure heeds, as much as ocean of a pebble cast. One moment in annihilation's waste, one moment of the well of life to taste. The stars are setting, and the caravan draws to the dawn of nothing. Oh, make haste. Would you that spangle of existence spend about the secret? Quick about it, friend. A hair, they say, divides the false and true. And upon what, prithee, does life depend? A hair, they say, divides the false and true. Yes, and a single olive were the clue, could you but find it, to the treasure house, and peradventure to the master too, whose secret presence, through creation's veins, running, quicksilver like eludes your pains, taking all shapes from Madamahi, and they change and perish all, but he remains a moment guest. Then back behind the fold, immersive darkness round the drum rolled, which, for the pastime of eternity, he does himself contrive, enact, behold, but it in vain, down on the stubborn floor of earth, and up to heaven's unopening door. You gaze today, well you are you, how then? Tomorrow, you and shall be you no more. Oh, plagued no more with human or divine. Tomorrow's tangled to itself resign, and lose your fingers in the tresses of the cypress slender minister of wine. Waste not your hour, nor in the vain pursuit of this and that endeavor and dispute. Better be merry with the fruitful grape, than sadden after none, or bitter, fruit. You know, my friends, how bravely in my house, for a new marriage I did make carouse, divorced old barren reason from my bed, and took the daughter of the vine to spouse. For is and is not, though with rule and line, and up and down by logic I define, of all that one should care to fathom, I was never deep in anything but wine. Ah, but my computations, people say, have squared the year to human compass, as so, by striking from the calendar, unborn tomorrow, and dead yesterday. And lately, by the tavern door agape, came shining through the dusk an angel shape, bearing a vessel on his shoulder, and he bid me taste of it, and 'twas the grape that can with logic absolute the 2 and 70 jarring sex confute. The sovereign alchemist, that in a trice life's leaden metal into gold transmute, the mighty Mahmud, all a breathing lord, that all the misbelieving and black horde of fears and sorrows that infest the soul scatters before him with his whirlwind sword. Why, be this juice the growth of God, who dare blaspheme the twisted tendril as a snare? A blessing, we should use it, should we not? And if a curse, why, then, who set it there? I must abjure the balm of life, I must, scared by some after reckoning taken on trust, allured with hope of some diviner drink. When the frail cup is crumbled into dust, if but the vine and love abjuring band are in the prophet's paradise to stand. Alack, I doubt the prophet's paradise, where empty is the hollow of one's hand. O threats of hell and hopes of paradise! One thing at least is certain, this life flies. One thing is certain, and the rest is lies. The flower that once is blown forever dies. Strange, is it not, that of the myriad who before us pass the door of darkness through, not one returns to tell us of the road which to discover we must travel to. The revelations of devout and learned arose before us, and as prophets burned, are all but stories, which, awoke from sleep, they told their fellows, and to sleep returned. Why, if the soul can fling the dust aside, and naked on the air of heaven ride, is it not a shame, is it not a shame for him, so long in this clay suburb to abide? But that is but a tent wherein may rest a sultan to the realm of death addressed. The sultan rises, and the dark farish strikes, and prepares it for another guest. I send my soul through the invisible, some letter of that afterlife to spell. And after many days my soul returned, and said, Behold, myself from heaven in hell heaven, but the vision of fulfilled desire, and hell the shadow of a soul on fire, cast on the darkness into which ourselves, so late emerged from, shall so soon expire. We are no other than a moving row of visionary shapes that come and go, round with this sun-illumined lantern held in midnight by the master of the show, impotent pieces of the game he plays upon this checkerboard of nights and days. Hither and thither moves, and checks, and slays, and one by one back in the closet lays. The bull no question makes of A's and no's, but right or left as strikes the player goes. And he that tossed you down into the field, he knows about it all, he knows the moving finger writes, and, having writ, moves on. Nor all your piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all your tears wash out a word of it. For let philosopher and doctor preach of what they will, and what they will not, each is but one link in an eternal chain, that none can slip, nor break, nor overreach. And that inverted bowl we call the sky, where under crawling coot we live and die. Lift not your hands to it for help, for it as impotently rolls as you or I. With earth's first clay they did the last man eat, and there of the last harvest sowed the seed, and the first morning of creation wrote what the last dawn of reckoning shall read. Yesterday this day's madness did prepare, tomorrow's silence, triumph, or despair. Drink, for you know not whence you came, nor why. Drink, for you know not where you go, nor where. I tell you this, when, started from the goal, over the flaming shoulders of the full of heaven Parwin and Mishtari they flung, in my predestined plot of dust and soul, the vine had struck a fibre, which about, if clings my being, let the dervish flout, of my base metal may be filed a key, that shall unlock the door he holds without. And this I know, whether the one true light kindle to love, or wrath consume me quite. One flash of it within the tavern caught, better than in the temple lost outright. What, out of senseless nothing to provoke, the conscious something to resent the yoke of unpermitted pleasure, under pain of everlasting penalties, if broke what from his helpless creature be repaid. Pure gold for what he lent us draw salade. Sue for a debt we never did contract, and cannot answer owe the sorry trade, nay, but, for terror of his wrathful face, I swear I will not call injustice grace. Not one good fellow of the tavern but would kick so poor a coward from the place. O thou, who didst with pitfall and with gin beset the road I was to wander in, thou wilt not with predestined evil round enmesh, and then impute my fault to sin. O thou, who man of baser earth didst make, and even with paradise devise the snake. For all the sin the face of wretched man is black with, man's forgiveness give, and take as under cover of departing day. Slunk hunger-stricken Ramazan away. Once more within the potter's house alone, I stood, surrounded by the shapes of clay, and once again there gathered a scarce herd, whisper among them, as it were, the stirred ashes of small but extinguished tongue, which mine ear kindled into living word. Said one among them, surely not in vain, my substance from the common earth was taken, that he who subtly wrought me into shape should stamp me back to shapeless earth again. Another said, why, never a peevish boy would break the cup from which he drank in joy. Shall he that of his own free fancy made the vessel, in an after rage destroy none? Answered this, but after silence spake, some vessel of a more ungainly make. They sneer at me for leaning all awry. What, did the hand then of the potter shake thus with the dead, as with the living? What, and why, so ready, but the wherefore not? One on a sudden peevishly exclaimed, which is the potter, pray, and which the pot set? One folks of a surly master tell, and daub his visage with the smoke of hell. They talk of some sharp trial of us, pish. He's a good fellow, and 'twill all be well. Well said another, woe so will, let try. My clay with lung oblivion is gone dry, but fill me with the old familiar juice. Methinks I might recover by and by. So, while the vessels one by one were speaking, one spied the little crescent all were seeking, and then they jogged each other, brother, brother. Now for the porter's shoulder not a creaking, ah, would the great my fading life provide, and wash my body, whence the life has died, and lay me, shrouded in the living leaf, by some not unfrequented garden side, whither resorting from the vernal heat, shall old acquaintance greet, under the branch, that leans above the wall, to shed his blossom over head and feet. Then even my buried ashes such a snare, a vintage shall fling up into the air, as not a true believer passing by, but shall be overtaken unaware. Indeed the idols I have loved so long, have done my credit in men's eyes much wrong, have drowned my glory in a shallow cup, and sold my reputation for a song. Indeed, indeed, repentance oft before. I swore, but was I sober when I swore? And then came spring, and rose in hand. My threadbare penitence a pieces tore. And much as wine has played the infidel, and robbed me of my robe of honor, well, I often wonder what the vintners buy, one half so precious as the ware they sell. Yet that spring should vanish with the rose, that youth's sweet-scented manuscript should close. The nightingale that in the branches sang, whence, and whither flown again, who knows, would but the desert of the fountain yield one glimpse of dimly, yet indeed, revealed, toward which the fainting traveler might spring, as springs the trampled herbage of the field. Oh, if the world were but to recreate, that we might catch ere close the book of fate, and make the writer on a fair leaf inscribe our names, or quite obliterate, better, oh better, cancel from the scroll of universe one luckless human soul, than drop by drop enlarge the flood that rolls, hoarser with anguish as the ages roll. Ah, love, could you and I with fate conspire, to grasp this sorry scheme of things entire, would not we shatter it to bits, and then remold it nearer to the heart's desire? But see, the rising moon of heaven again looks for us, sweetheart, through the quivering plain. How oft hereafter rising will she look among those leaves for one of us in vain, and when yourself with silver foot shall pass among the guest stars scattered on the grass, and in your joyous errand reach the spot where I made one, turn down an empty glass.